Welcome. You think you came here by choice. That you clicked on this video because the title intrigued you, or because you were bored, or because a friend sent it to you. But let me tell you something uncomfortable. You did not choose to be here. Something else chose for you. Something ancient, silent, and living in the architecture of your mind. Tonight, we are not talking about psychology in the way your textbooks discuss it. We are talking about the psychology that moves in the dark. The kind that politicians, cult leaders, con artists, and even your most charming friend have used on you, sometimes without knowing it, sometimes with surgical precision. And by the end of this, you will see the strings. Not all of them, but enough to realize you have been a puppet far longer than you have been a puppeteer. Let us begin with a story, not a happy one. In 1974, a woman named Patty Hearst was kidnapped by a group called the Symbionese Liberation Army. She was 19, wealthy, sheltered. Within 2 months, she was robbing banks with them. She had taken a new name. She had, by all appearances, joined the enemy. The world called it Stockholm Syndrome and moved on. But that label is a band-aid on a bullet wound. What really happened was a systematic dismantling of the self, piece by piece, using principles so old they are carved into human DNA. And the terrifying part? These principles are not reserved for kidnappers. They are used in marketing, in relationships, in offices, in schools. They are used on you. The first principle is isolation, not necessarily physical. Physical isolation is obvious, easy to resist. The dangerous kind is cognitive isolation. When someone controls the information you receive, they control the world you inhabit. Think about your social media feed. The algorithm does not show you reality. It shows you a curated reality, designed to keep you engaged, angry, afraid, hopeful, but never neutral, never fully informed. Over time, your brain forgets that other perspectives exist in the same volume, with the same validity. This is how you isolate someone without ever locking a door. You simply shrink their world until it fits inside a screen, and then you own that screen. Now, the second principle, intermittent reinforcement. This is the most addictive pattern known to behavioral science. It is why gambling works. It is why toxic relationships feel like love. If every time you pull a lever you get a reward, you get bored, you learn the pattern and the mystery dies. But if you pull the lever and sometimes get nothing, sometimes a small reward, sometimes a jackpot, you are trapped. Your brain floods with dopamine not at the reward, but at the possibility of the reward. The uncertainty is the drug. The narcissist does not devalue you every day. They mix cruelty with kindness. One day flowers, the next silence, then a love letter, then a threat. Your nervous system never finds equilibrium. You become addicted to the chaos, mistaking it for passion. You are not in love. You are in a Skinner box pecking for crumbs. Let us go deeper. The third principle, foot in the door technique. A classic. Someone asks you for a small favor, something trivial, 5 minutes of your time, a signature, a like on a post. It costs you nothing. But psychologically, you have just made an investment. You have defined yourself to yourself as someone who helps this person. The next request is slightly larger, and the next, larger still. By the time they ask for something massive, your money, your loyalty, your silence, you are not weighing the request on its own merits. You are protecting your own consistency. Your brain hates cognitive dissonance. It would rather betray its own values than admit it has been manipulated from step one. This is how good people end up in bad places. Not in one leap, but in 1,000 tiny steps they did not even feel. Now here is where it gets truly dark. The fourth principle, gaslighting. The term comes from a 1944 film where a husband manipulates his wife into believing she is going insane by dimming the gaslights and denying it when she notices. But in reality, gaslighting is rarely that theatrical. It is subtle. It is someone saying, "You are too sensitive," when you catch them in a lie. It is someone rewriting history. That never happened. You are remembering it. Wrong. It is the slow erosion of your trust in your own perception. And the genius of it is that the victim becomes their own jailer. They stop trusting their feelings. They stop trusting their memory. They outsource their reality to the very person distorting it. If you have ever found yourself apologizing for being hurt, you have touched the edge of this. But why does it work? Why do we fall for it? Because of the fifth principle, the authority bias. We are wired to obey authority. Not because we are weak, but because for most of human history, disobeying authority meant death. The tribe protected you. The alpha led the hunt. Evolution favored compliance. But evolution moves slowly and the world moves fast. Today, authority is not just the king or the general. It is the doctor in a white coat, the influencer with 1 million followers, the algorithm that seems to know you better than you know yourself. The Milgram experiment in 1961 proved that ordinary people would administer what they believed were fatal electric shocks to a stranger, simply because a man in a lab coat told them to. 65% went all the way to the maximum voltage. They did not do it because they were evil. They did it because the architecture of their brains was built for a world that no longer exists. Now, let us talk about the 6th principle. And this one is personal. Trauma bonding. This is the invisible chain that keeps people in abusive relationships, in toxic workplaces, in destructive cults. It is not love. It is a biological addiction to cycles of abuse and reconciliation. When you experience intense fear or pain, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. When the danger passes and the abuser switches to affection, your body releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Over time, your nervous system learns that safety and danger come from the same source. You do not bond with the person, you bond with the cycle. This is why leaving feels like dying. Your body literally believes that the source of your survival is the source of your threat. And the cruelest part? The abuser often believes they love you. They believe the intensity of the cycle proves the depth of the connection. It does not. It proves the depth of the trap. Let us shift to something more insidious. The 7th principle, love bombing. This is how the trap is set. Overwhelming affection, attention, gifts, and validation in the early stages of a relationship. It feels like a dream. Finally, someone sees you. Finally, someone understands. But it is not love. It is calibration. The predator is learning your insecurities, your desires, your wounds. They are building a map of your psyche so they know exactly which buttons to press later. And when the devaluation phase begins, and it always does, they know precisely where to strike. The person who once called you perfect now calls you worthless, and you believe them. Because they are the same person who once made you feel more worthy than anyone else ever had. The contrast is the weapon. Now, the 8th principle. This one is used in boardrooms and battlefields. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. FUD. You do not need to convince someone you are right. You only need to convince them that the alternative is terrifying. This is how markets are manipulated, how elections are won, how consent is manufactured. If you can keep a population anxious, you can keep them controlled. Anxiety narrows the field of vision. It triggers the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, and shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational thought. A frightened person does not think. They react. They cling to the nearest strong voice, the nearest promise of safety, even if that voice is the one that created the fear in the first place. The arsonist becomes the firefighter, and the victim thanks them for the water. Let us talk about the 9th principle, and I want you to feel this one, the sunk cost fallacy. You have invested years in a relationship, a career, a belief system. The evidence that it is destroying you is mounting, but you stay. Not because it is good, but because leaving would mean admitting that all those years were wasted, that all that pain was for nothing. So you double down. You invest more. You tell yourself it will get better. You tell yourself you have come too far to turn back. This is not loyalty. This is a math error. The past is a sunk cost. It is gone. It cannot be recovered. But your brain treats it like a debt that must be paid with your future. And so you stay in the burning house because you already paid for the matches. Now, the 10th principle. This is the master key. Projection. The manipulator accuses you of exactly what they are doing. They call you controlling while they isolate you. They call you dishonest while they lie. They call you unstable while they gaslight you. Why? Because it serves 2 functions. First, it deflects suspicion. If you are busy defending yourself against an accusation, you are not examining their behavior. Second, it creates confusion. Your brain struggles to hold 2 contradictory ideas, that they are accusing you and that they are guilty. The simpler explanation is that you must be guilty, because why else would they say it? Projection turns the victim into the investigator of their own innocence. While the perpetrator walks free, let us pause. Here, breathe. I know this is heavy, but we are only halfway through the dark forest, and the next part is about you. Not the theory, you. Think about the last time you compromised your boundaries. Not a big compromise, a small one. You said yes when you meant no. You laughed at a joke that hurt you. You stayed silent when you should have spoken. Why? Because the cost of asserting yourself felt higher than the cost of the compromise. That is the 11th principle, learned helplessness. It was discovered in dogs who were shocked repeatedly with no way to escape. Eventually, they stopped trying to escape, even when the door was open. They had learned that their actions were futile. Humans are not dogs, but our nervous systems operate on similar wiring. If you have been ignored, dismissed, or punished for expressing your needs, you stop expressing them. You do not even feel the desire to try. The door is open, but you do not see it. You do not believe it is for you. Now, the 12th principle. This one lives in the workplace, in friendships, in families. Triangulation. Instead of addressing a conflict directly, the manipulator brings in a third party. They tell your friend that you said something cruel. They tell their new partner that you are obsessed with them. They tell the boss that you are undermining the team. The goal is not resolution. The goal is chaos. The manipulator positions themselves as the calm center, the mediator, the only reasonable person in a storm of drama they created. And while you are busy defending yourself to the third party, the manipulator watches, gathering information, deepening the divide. Triangulation turns relationships into battlegrounds and the manipulator into the only safe harbor. The 13th principle is negging, born in the toxic corners of the pickup artist community, but alive everywhere. A backhanded compliment designed to destabilize your self-worth. You are pretty smart for someone who did not go to college. I usually do not date people your size, but you have a great personality. The goal is to make you feel slightly inferior, slightly uncertain, and therefore slightly more eager to prove your worth to the person who insulted you. It is not flirting, it is a power play dressed as intimacy. And it works because we are all, somewhere inside, desperate for approval. The negging exploits that desperation with the precision of a surgeon. Now, the 14th principle, the illusion of choice. You think you have free will. You think your decisions are your own. But consider this, when a parent asks a child, "Do you want to go to bed now or in 5 minutes?" The child feels empowered. They chose. But the parent set the frame. Bedtime was never negotiable. This is how consent is manufactured in adults. Would you prefer to sign the contract today or tomorrow? Do you want to handle this privately or should I involve the team? The options are real, but the framework is rigged. You are so busy choosing between A and B that you forget to ask why C, D, and E were never on the table. The illusion of choice is the velvet. Glove over the iron fist of control. Let us go darker. The 15th principle, dehumanization. This is not always dramatic. It does not always look like genocide or slavery. Sometimes it looks like gossip. Sometimes it looks like reducing a complex person to a single label. He is just lazy. She is crazy. They are the problem. Once a person is reduced to a category, empathy shuts down. You do not need to understand someone you have labeled. You do not need to negotiate with a stereotype. Dehumanization is the prerequisite for cruelty, and it begins in the small moments. The moment you stop seeing the person and start seeing the label. The moment you forget that the person you are angry at has nightmares, has favorite songs, has a childhood they did not choose. Now, the 16th principle. Cognitive overload. If you want to break someone's will, do not argue with them. Overwhelm them. Flood them with information, demands, choices, and crises until their decision-making capacity collapses. This is why authoritarian regimes do not just censor information, they flood the zone with contradictory information. It is why toxic bosses give you 3 urgent projects with the same deadline. It is why some relationships feel like a constant state of emergency. When your brain is overloaded, it defaults to the simplest path. Obedience, compliance, surrender. You. Stop asking if the demand is reasonable because you are too exhausted to evaluate it. The overload is the cage. The 17th principle is mirroring. On the surface, it looks like connection. Someone copies your body language, your speech patterns, your values. They love what you love. They hate what you hate. They finish your sentences, and your brain, wired for social connection, releases oxytocin. You feel seen. You feel safe. But mirroring can be manufactured. It can be studied and deployed. The con artist does not care about your favorite band. They care that mentioning your favorite band lowers your defenses. Mirroring creates a false sense of intimacy. And false intimacy is the Trojan horse for exploitation. Now, the 18th principle, the slow boil. If you drop a frog in boiling water, it jumps out. But if you put it in cool water and raise the temperature slowly, it stays until it dies. This is how boundaries are eroded, not in a single dramatic violation, but in 1,000 tiny concessions. The joke that was a little too mean. The request that was a little too much. The comment that was a little too controlling. Each one is barely noticeable. Each one is easy to excuse. They are stressed. They did not mean it. It is not a big deal. But the temperature is rising. And by the time you realize you are being cooked, your muscles have atrophied. You have forgotten how to jump. The 19th principle is weaponized incompetence. I would help, but I am just so bad at this. I tried, but I made it worse. The goal is to be excused from responsibility by performing failure so consistently that others stop asking. It is not incompetence. It is strategy, and it works. Because the people around the manipulator, often women in heterosexual relationships, but not exclusively, are socialized to pick up the slack, to smooth things over, to manage the emotional labor. The weaponized, incompetent person gets the benefits of the relationship without the costs. While their partner slowly drowns in resentment they are not allowed to name. Now, the 20th principle, the halo effect. If someone is attractive, we assume they are also smart, kind, and trustworthy. If a brand is expensive, we assume it is high quality. If a leader is charismatic, we assume they are competent. The halo effect is a cognitive shortcut, a way for the brain to save energy by letting one positive trait color the entire perception of a person or thing. It is why con artists are often charming. It is why corrupt politicians are often eloquent. The halo blinds you to the horns, and the person wearing the halo knows it. They cultivate the shine precisely to hide the shadow. Let us talk about the 21st principle, reactive abuse. The manipulator pushes and pushes and pushes, silent treatment. Gaslighting, subtle cruelty, until the victim finally snaps. They yell, they cry, maybe they throw something. And in that moment, the manipulator has won. They have the evidence they need. Look how unstable you are. Look how aggressive. They provoke the reaction. Then use the reaction to justify the abuse. The victim is now the abuser in the narrative, and the real abuser becomes the victim. It is a magic trick. The violence was always there, but the manipulator made you perform it so they could film it. The 22nd principle is future faking. We will travel next year. I will change. I promise. Once this project is over, things will be different. The future is a place where all problems are solved, and the manipulator keeps you walking toward it. But the future never arrives. It is a carrot on a stick, a mirage that moves as you move. Future faking keeps you invested in a relationship that does not exist, working for a reward that will never come. It is hope used as a leash. Now the 23rd principle, the double bind. Be spontaneous, but only in ways I approve of. Be honest, but do not upset me. Be independent, but do not leave me. The double bind is a no-win scenario. Whatever the victim does, they are wrong. If they comply, they lose themselves. If they resist, they are punished. The only way to win is to stop playing. But the manipulator has made the game feel like life itself. Double binds create paralysis, and paralyzed people are easy to control. The 24th principle is scarcity. This offer expires in an hour. I have never felt this way about anyone. You will never find someone who loves you like I do. Scarcity triggers loss aversion, a cognitive bias where the pain of losing something feels twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it. The manipulator does not need to convince you that what they offer is good. They only need to convince you that it is rare, and that without it, you will be alone. Scarcity turns mediocre offers into treasures, and toxic relationships into irreplaceable love stories. Now, the 25th principle, the gray rock method. This is actually a defense, not an attack, but it reveals the architecture of dark psychology. When you cannot escape a manipulator, you become boring. You give no emotional reaction. You share no personal information. You become as interesting as a gray rock. Without your emotional energy to feed on, the manipulator loses interest and moves on. It is a sad testament to how these dynamics work. The only way to win is to stop being human, to become invisible, but it works. It works because dark psychology runs on emotion. Starve the fire of oxygen and the fire dies. Let us go to the 26th principle, Hoovering, named after the vacuum brand, because the manipulator tries to suck you back in after you have escaped. They appear at your door with tears. They send a message about a shared memory. They threaten suicide. They apologize with a sincerity that would melt stone. And if you have not healed, if you have not understood the pattern, you open the door, because hope is the last thing to die. Hoovering works because it targets not your logic, but your grief. Your grief for the person you thought they were. Your grief for the relationship you wish you had. The manipulator offers you a chance to resurrect a corpse. And if you are lonely enough, you will try. The 27th principle is stonewalling, the silent treatment, the withdrawal, the refusal to engage. It is not conflict resolution, it is punishment. When someone stonewalls you, your nervous system goes into panic. Humans are wired for connection, and silence from a loved one registers in the brain like physical pain. The stonewaller knows this. They use your need for connection as a weapon. They withhold themselves until you break, until you apologize for things you did not do, until you accept their version of reality just to end the silence. It is emotional waterboarding. No marks, no evidence, just drowning. Now, the 28th principle, the just world fallacy. Bad things happen to bad people. Good things happen to good people. If something terrible happened to you, you must have done something to deserve it. This belief is not just wrong. It is a shield for the privileged and a cage for the victim. It allows bystanders to look away from injustice because acknowledging injustice would mean acknowledging their own vulnerability, and it keeps victims silent. Because speaking up means admitting that the world is chaotic, that suffering is random, that there is no cosmic scorekeeper ensuring fairness. The just world fallacy is the bedrock of victim blaming, and victim blaming is the bedrock of systemic abuse. The 29th principle is cognitive dissonance. You believe you are smart. You believe you would never fall for manipulation. And yet here you are, in a relationship, a job, a belief system that is clearly harming you. The dissonance between your self-image and your reality is unbearable. So your brain resolves it, not by changing your behavior, but by rewriting your narrative. It is not that bad. They are trying. I am learning a lot. Cognitive dissonance is the mind's defense mechanism against admitting it was wrong. And it is the reason the most intelligent people often stay in the most obvious traps the longest. Their intelligence is not protecting them. It is generating better excuses. And now the 30th principle, the final one. The one that ties them all together, the banality of evil. Hannah Arendt coined this phrase watching the trial of Adolf Eichmann. She expected a monster. She found a bureaucrat, a man who said he was just following orders, just doing his job, just being efficient. The most terrifying truth about dark psychology is that it does not require monsters. It requires ordinary people, people who want to be liked, people who want to keep their jobs, people who do not want to make waves. The manipulator is often not a mastermind. They are someone who discovered, often by accident, that certain behaviors get them what they want. And because they never face consequences, they never stop. The evil is not in their intentions. It is in their indifference, in their refusal to see the damage, in their ability to sleep soundly while others burn. So where does this leave you? You are not powerless, but you are not invincible either. The first step is seeing the strings. The second and harder step is accepting that you have been dancing to music you did not choose, that your relationships, your beliefs, your very sense of self may have been shaped by forces you never named. This is not a comfortable realization. It is a grieving process. You will grieve the time you lost, the boundaries you never had, the love you mistook for manipulation, and the manipulation you mistook for love. But there is a door. It is small and it hurts to walk through, because it requires you to become someone new, someone who tolerates discomfort, someone who says no without explanation, someone who walks away from investments that will never pay out, someone who chooses loneliness over dysfunction, someone who trusts their own perception more than someone else's narrative. The world will not thank you for this. The manipulators will call you cold. The enablers will call you difficult. The systems will call you uncooperative. Let them. The price of your freedom is the loss of their approval, and that is a price worth paying. You were not born to be controlled. You were born to be conscious. And consciousness, real consciousness, is the ultimate rebellion. Not because it makes you immune to pain, but because it makes you the author of your own response. You cannot choose what happens to you, but you can choose what you see. And once you see, you can never unsee. That is the gift. That is the curse. That is the end of this, and the beginning of you.